And so when your nervous system's dysregulated, we talked about this a bit yesterday, but here are some of the things that can crop up for us in our health is like, again, if your body doesn't feel safe, if you're using all your energy to pump out cortisol and using all your energy for like survival mechanisms, then you will have irregular periods, PMS, mood swings, fertility issues. Again, like if your body doesn't feel safe, it's not a safe time to get pregnant. So your body will stop that from happening. It's very smart and it's just trying to protect you. It thinks we don't have the resources right now, or we are not safe. So why would we bring a baby into the world? Why would we want to get pregnant when we're not safe ourselves, or we don't have enough resources? Um, Hormonal perimenopause and menopause symptoms, I think they're getting worse and worse. And a lot of this has to do with just nervous system dysregulation that people just don't know how to deal with. Um, HPA axis dysregulation. That's what we talked about yesterday. That's about cortisol too high, too low, topsy turvy cortisol, and that can cause adrenal fatigue. Again, the adrenals don't fatigue. They actually, it's your body is smart and it thinks we are using too many resources. It's just too much. We need to shut down and conserve energy and just protect ourselves. And conserve as much. So that's what happens there. Lowered immunity and like hyperimmunity, like I said, with rashes and things like that, and then autoimmunity, impaired digestion. I said that's you can't actually absorb your nutrients, and impaired digestion means more gut infections and gut issues, um, bloating and constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, food intolerances, something called SIBO and leaky gut. So SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. When your digestion is suppressed for a long time, it means that bacteria can get in um, that aren't meant to be there, or the bad ones can tend to like overgrow, or bacteria base ends up in places that it's not meant to be, and that causes issues. So increased inflammation can cause endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, autoimmune diseases, like I talked about the thyroid issues, mental health issues, anxiety, depression, insomnia, burnout, fatigue, um, weight gain, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, whoops, and just like I said, you get sick more and it's hard to recover, just chronic fatigue, reproductive health, and issues like getting and staying pregnant, and then postpartum depletion, postpartum depression, and anxiety are all, I think, things that are like on the rise. Um, and it as well, we have a lot more pressure on us, so like why would we be more dysregulated? There's a lot of like artificial thing, like I said yesterday, sedentary lifestyle, not getting as much sunlight, the fact we as women have like 28-day cycles where our energy goes up and down, but we're kind of acting like men every day, and we're expected to either go to work 9 to 5, turn up the same way, our moods be the same, constantly on social media, and just like comparison, but also like blue light. It's all like it's kind of just dysregulation on top of dysregulation, and instead of doing the things that can help us, we are turning to things like numbing out and like doom scrolling, which is making it worse. Eating sugary processed carby foods, which makes it all worse. um like lack of getting outside and things like that, which makes it worse, and more isolation, like less community vibe and things like that, which makes nervous system dysregulation worse. So that's the thing, our coping mechanisms, um, like drinking, the foods we eat, things like that, our coping mechanisms are also causing dysregulation on top of it already. Um, so understanding your nervous system can be so empowering, because when you understand there's nothing wrong, your nervous system is actually doing what it's meant to do. It's meant to protect you, it's meant to keep you safe. You aren't broken. There's nothing wrong with your body. Your body's just using an outdated strategy, because the thing is, your nervous system's constantly scanning your outer environment, your inner environment, looking for, is it safe? Is it dangerous? Or is it like life threatening? And then it is scanning. It's got this kind of hard drive of information based on your past experiences. And if a mechanism kept you safe, usually in childhood, it will be like, oh, that worked, then we'll use this now, but that's not really appropriate when we're adults, and like we actually can, we can do better, we know better now, or we should do, but we aren't taught this, so we don't know. So it's based on your past experiences, and when a certain state, like we'll talk about fight, flight, freeze, collapse, um fawn, if they kept you safe as a child, that's what you'll choose in the moment now, even though it may not be appropriate. That's not what you want. That's not the way you want to react. If you had a big tantrum, if you thought somebody overstepped, you were in danger as a child, somebody overstepped the mark, said something to you, something like that, and you lashed out and had a tantrum, and there's a certain situation this week that happened that your brain thought, or your body sensed, oh, this reminds me of that time, and lashing out helped me remain safe, then that's what you'll do. So with your partner, um, even though that's not the way you want to react, you would have liked to go have a think about it, decide how you want to respond, maybe think it through, and then come back and have a normal conversation about it instead of getting angry and lashing out and slamming the door or whatever. But if that's what you did as a child, that's what worked then. So your nervous system, like I said, it's very primitive, and it's usually very childlike in the way it's going to respond because that's what it's basing it on. Um, so the thing everyone's talking about, oh god, sorry, that, to heal your nervous system, like, ice baths and things like that, and they can be like too fast, they're unsuitable for like the state you're in. When we talk about the states later, if you recognize that you were like deeply deeply in one of these states, like, it's all, you do different things to get out of each state. So um doing things like ice baths, fasting, like HIT, cutting your carbs, um, to control like your health issues or regulate your stress, can actually be like putting you further into dysregulation because it's not the action that you should be taking for the state you're in. You need to kind of, the first step in actually regulating your nervous system is to understand like your body and where you are and like what's your body doing, and then knowing, okay, my body's doing this, so I must be in this state. So for a couple of weeks or months or however long it takes to get out of this state, I'm going to use these practices, not just some random things that people put up online, that say they help them, because it's different. And this is just a list of all um, things that your nervous system does. But function is that where our nervous system is constantly, whether you're aware of it or not, taking in information and scans our internal and external environment and then responds accordingly. Um, so whether this response is actually appropriate or not depends on whether you're already in survival mode or not. If you're already calm, regulated, present, like in flow, like like I'm like my shoulders are tense. You get into like that state where you just feel good and calm, that's a much better place to be making decisions or responding to a situation than if we're already tense and we've already got cortisol running around because we're just like overthinking or thinking about our to-do list. We're so busy. That's like not a great place to start because you're already looking for dangers and threats, and you'd already lash out at people or not make great decisions. Um, Nervous system is always scanning. Um, and like I said, it's also on the inside of your body. So your blood sugar, like your gut health, it's scanning, like stress hormones, it's scanning hormone, like just checking everything's okay on the inside. Like, do you have enough nutrients? Do you have enough fuel? And the outside, obviously. And it's always asking, is it safe? Is it dangerous? Or is it life threatening? And how it decides this is based again on that past experiences. How it'll always prioritize the negative or threatening situations first. That's the thing. The primitive brain is always about like survival and protect. So although you've got some memories there and some, like, even if you can't remember them, the body always does. It's got them stored away somewhere. Um, and of course, you've got like good experiences, like a really good holiday you went on, like having your first baby, like at a wedding, laughing with friends, dinner with friends, like good times. They're in there, and you can obviously compare situations to those, but it's always going to prioritize the negative. Unfortunately, that's the way it is because of survival. So if you want to be like a more positive person, if you want to see things in a like see the world as friendly and happy, and that you can have, I don't know if anyone's heard of like glimmers, that's where it's the opposite of a trigger, where you actually just, you're in the present moment and you see a sunset or you see your kids play and you just like feel so like happy and content and present and things like that. That's like the opposite of a trigger, and that's where you activate that what's called ventrivagal, or like stillness, where you just feel so calm and at peace with yourself. And when you see things like glimmers, it brings you back to the more positive experiences. But like I said, you have to kind of, if you're stuck in one of the other states that aren't great to be stuck in, you have to kind of train your body to feel that way more often and see the world that way until it starts. It's like training a muscle. Once you train it more to look at more the positive, you can do that with like limiting belief work, um, uh, like breath work, all the things I do in Revive, learning how to get out of those other states first, because you're never going to get into a calm, peaceful state if you're stuck in fight or flight. So anyway, some of those other past experiences that you're comparing now to, like being bullied, being laughed at in class because you said something that wasn't right, a medical procedure that you were like scared of, um, abuse, whether that be like emotional, physical, verbal, being made fun of, an accident that you had, if you were in like a car crash or had another accident that was quite traumatic. Um, so also these past experiences are based on your parents' experiences, because um, we kind of mirror our caregiver's nervous system. So if your parents were quite reactive, if they had trauma as kids and they're quite dysregulated and didn't do anything about their nervous system, which I don't think a lot of them got the chance to, then you are more than likely mirroring their nervous system as well from when you were a child, their beliefs, culture, what society expected, um, being critical, like being criticized if you didn't achieve, if you were shamed for not being perfect. Being perfect is like an adaptation, perfectionism, sorry, is it like an adaptation to um, trying to control how people see you, and to keep you safe as a child. If you're just great at everything and if you just keep achieving and you are praised for that, then that's your like mask, that's your like default. Um, if your parents were like I said, really reactive because they had their own like dysregulated nervous systems, then that will be mirrored in you. And you'll see that now, especially people who have kids. Sometimes, when you're like, oh, that reminds me of my parents. And yeah, and your parents, it probably reminds them of their parents, because unless we consciously choose to regulate our nervous system and choose the way we want to react and respond and choose our thoughts and start rewiring everything that we were just shown as kids, that we're like little sponges and we pick up on, um, then we will continue to play that out, and then your kids will continue to play that out. So yeah, your nervous system compares what's happening now to back then, and then ask, what did I do back then to keep me safe? Like, because if that worked, and like I said, it may not have been the best actually state or the best reaction or the best thing to do, but you're still alive. Therefore, if you're still alive, your body's like, cool, well, that works then, so let's just do that now. It doesn't really have that higher level thinking where it's like, I don't think I really need to throw a tantrum right now, or I don't need to run away. Like, I am an adult, I can handle this. Instead, when we don't consciously choose, we will just play out what we did back then. Be a good girl, like keep achieving, keeping productive, just keeping busy so nobody can be angry at you, or say, stay quiet so you won't be seen, people please, um, shout, cry, throw a tantrum in like an argument, run away when like sometimes maybe they're appropriate. Um, but a lot of the time you could probably agree as like an adult you could handle it better now. But it's not you. You're not consciously doing it. Like I said, your nervous system, your primitive reaction is much quicker than your logical brain. So you have to start getting really in tune with your body, really recognizing which state you're in, learn how to recognize your state so that you can consciously choose a different response and do something differently. Just a quick note on the brain. I'll go into this more in Revive. But basically, you've got your reptilian brain, and this was like our brain, like primitive before we grew into mammal. Like obviously evolution and everything. What were we, little fish or something? I don't know. Started off as like a couple of cells, and then we grow and grow and grow. Um, but when we were just like a really basic creature, we just had the reptilian brain, which is all about survival. It's just about getting enough food, water, and that's our primitive brain. That's the one that does these states. Okay, so there's three layers to it, and that's like shut down, freeze, which is called the dorsovagal. Sympathetic is fight or flight, and then ventrovagal is like our social connection and things like that, which is more related to the mammalian brain. So mammals only have this in common. We've got more emotions and memory. It helps us to form like emotional bonds and respond to social situations and be able to nurture and bond. So this is unique to mammals. And then the neocortex is human, so that's higher level thinking. And then our neocortex was like there's the newer part of our brain where it actually helps us to problem solve and like critical think, make more conscious decisions, plan for the future, and all the rest of it, like how we've built society. Um, yeah, and our nervous system is just there like for survival, for safety, and your body's always trying to get back to balance, whatever, even though that looks like dysregulation and a load of health issues. That is because of the environment that it's in. That's because of the situation that it thinks it is in based on your past and what you're unconsciously allowing at the moment. If you're like a worrier, really negative thinking, that would have been learned in the past, but that is keeping you stuck in the state you're in because you're seeing everything as a threat. So the best way to keep balance is for your nervous system to stay on fight or flight, but that's causing dysregulation in your body, which causes you to be more stressed. So you, like I said, you have to actively do things. It's not a passive process. I'm sure that would be much easier to just decide I'm going to be a calm, regulated person now. But unfortunately, it does take time, which is why, like, even my course Revive is 12 weeks. But to be honest, you could probably do that like three times over to really start feeling like you're just naturally calm. Like, as in that it's easy for you to go into that. And it all depends as well on how long you've been dysregulated.